So I want you to imagine holding this really sleek, brightly colored tube of over-the-counter vaginal gel.
Oh, yeah, the ones with the really aesthetic packaging.
Right, exactly. And the
Yeah.
packaging promises to make you smell like, I don't know, a tropical breeze or a springtime meadow or some sort of botanical garden down there.
Like you're supposed to naturally smell like a pina colada or something.
Yeah, which is just wild. And it's marketed as this ultimate hygiene hack, But imagine that same gel is actually scientifically documented to act as essentially a chemical weapon against your body's most crucial defense system.
Right, and we're not just talking about mild irritation here.
No, I mean, potentially increasing your risk of severe life-altering complications, like up to a 73% higher risk for things that can lead to infertility.
It's just staggering when you actually look at the numbers.
It really is. So today, for this deep dive, we are looking into this massive industry. I mean, it's projected to hit almost $41 billion by 2030, just sitting right there on pharmacy shelves.
A whole industry that is frankly largely built on scientific falsehoods that just prey directly on people's insecurities.
Exactly. So our mission today is to explore the actual science of the vaginal microbiome. We're zeroing in on the very real, medically documented dangers of the permanent, regular use of these specific internal intimate deodorants, gels, and douches.
Because separating the clever marketing fiction from the medical fact is, it's just so crucial for your health.
Right. We want to equip you with how your body actually works so you can save yourself from, a cycle of discomfort, potential long-term health crises, and honestly, just stop wasting your money on unnecessary products.
Save your money. And to really grasp why the permanent use of these internal products is so destructive, you first have to understand the highly specialized ecosystem that they're disrupting.
Which means we need to get our terminology straight right out of the gate.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking to a well-informed audience here, so we generally know the anatomical difference. The vulva is the external genitalia, and the vagina is the internal canal.
Right, the outside versus the inside.
But what really stood out in our sources is how marketing campaigns deliberately blur that line.
Oh, they totally do. They use the terms interchangeably to confuse consumers.
Yeah, it creates this illusion that external cosmetics should somehow be applied internally.
Which is a huge red flag. So for this deep dive, we need to focus strictly on the inside, the vaginal canal itself. And the absolute hero of this internal ecosystem is this specific type of bacteria called lactobacillus.
The mechanism behind lactobacillus is just, I mean, it's nothing short of brilliant.
It really is.
A healthy internal environment is just teeming with millions of these beneficial bacteria. They are the dominant force.
And they feed on sugars in the body, right?
Yeah, exactly. They feed on glycogen, and in doing so, they produce lactic acid. And by constantly pumping out this lactic acid, they maintain a highly protective acidic environment.
With a pH level that hovers between, 3.5 and 4.5?
Right, in that place.
Which is pretty acidic. I mean, that's roughly the same pH as a cup of black coffee or, tomato juice.
It is, and that acidity is literally your primary shield. Harmful pathogens simply cannot survive when the pH is that low.
They just dissolve.
Pretty much. Their cell walls break down, they can't multiply, and they just die off.
So I was thinking about this biological defense while reading through the sources, and let's build a little mental model here.
Okay, I love a good analogy.
Right, so the vagina is essentially an exclusive, high-end nightclub.
Okay, I'm with you.
And the lactobacillus bacteria, they're the strict bouncers at the door. The lactic acid they produce is the VIP list.
That's perfect sense, yeah.
So harmful bacteria, or, invasive yeast, they try to show up and get inside the club, but they aren't on the list. They can't handle that highly acidic environment.
So the bouncers just toss them out into the alley.
Exactly. But by trying to aggressively, quote-unquote, clean that club with internal deodorants and douches on a regular basis, you aren't helping. You're literally firing your own bouncers, tearing up the VIP list, and leaving the front door just wide open for anyone to walk in.
That is honestly, the medical consensus fully supports that visualization. I mean, gynecologists frequently describe the internal canal as a self-cleaning oven.
A self-cleaning oven, yeah.
Right. It relies on its natural discharge to clear out dead cells and debris.
So that daily clear or white discharge, it's not a sign of poor hygiene.
No, not at all. It's the physical manifestation of your body sweeping the floors of the club, to use your analogy,
right,
which makes any internal intervention not just unnecessary, but fundamentally counterproductive.
Okay, so if the system is this self-cleaning marvel, heavily guarded by microbial bouncers, why do people feel so compelled to use these internal products permanently?
Well, It's the messaging. The marketing tells you that your natural biology is somehow dirty
Yeah.
or inadequate.
Yeah, that you need their specific, expensive intervention to fix a problem that doesn't even actually exist.
Exactly. And we're talking about products like those acidified vaginal gels,
Yeah.
the ones you place high up inside with a plastic plunger.
Oh, right, or those over-the-counter suppositories and deep cleansing douches.
Right. And when you examine the physical mechanics of those specific products, the inherent flaws just jump out immediately.
Like what?
Well, take those internal gels, for example.
Hmm.
The sources highlight a glaring, completely practical issue, which is gravity.
Oh, gravity, of course.
Yeah. I mean, when you insert a liquid or a gel high up into the canal, it's not going to just stay there. It is eventually going to leak out.
Which creates a physical mess that you then have to just deal with all day.
Exactly. So you buy this product to feel fresh, and you end up feeling damp and uncomfortable all afternoon.
Talk about counterproductive. But the bigger issue here is that these products don't even treat the root cause of odors anyway, do they?
Not at all. They merely mask them. They use harsh botanical fragrances or these really overpowering perfumes.
So you aren't neutralizing bad bacteria, you're just dumping a tropical breeze scent on top of a bacterial imbalance.
Right. And that brings us to the actual measurable damage they inflict on your microbiome.
Yeah.
There's this fascinating microbiology study we looked at from the Regeneron ICEF 2026 competition.
Project MCRO003, right?
Yes, that's the one. They tested this exact dynamic. The researchers wanted to see how these feminine deodorants impact our hero bacteria, the lactobacillus.
And they used something called a turbidity test, which I want to unpack really quickly because the methodology is so revealing.
Yeah, it's a great test.
From what I understand, turbidity basically just means cloudiness. So if you take a test tube of liquid and put healthy bacteria in it, as those bacteria multiply and thrive over, say, 48 hours, the liquid gets very cloudy or highly turbid.
Right.
But if the bacteria die, the liquid stays completely clear.
That is the exact metric they used. They mixed different over-the-counter feminine deodorants with liquid lactobacillus cultures and just observed the changes.
Let me guess. The chemicals meant to kill the bad odors couldn't tell the difference and just completely wiped out the lactobacillus too.
The results were totally definitive. Certain feminine deodorants caused a significant, immediate drop in lactobacillus growth. Yeah. The test tubes remained dangerously clear. The products were actively killing off the protective bacteria. And what stood out as particularly alarming was that even the brands aggressively marketed as, quote, probiotic.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they performed worse than the standard control group.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here for a second, because this is where the marketing gets incredibly persuasive.
Sure, go ahead.
I am looking at a hypothetical box of internal gel. The label explicitly says it is pH balancing. It says gynecologist tested. It even says clean ingredients.
Right, they all say that.
So if a company spends millions of dollars formulating a gel to perfectly match a healthy pH of 4.0, why is it still bad to use it internally on a permanent basis?
That's a great question. And the trap lies in the ingredients required to just put that product on a retail shelf in the first place.
What do you mean?
Well, even if a company perfectly balances the pH of a gel, that gel still has to sit in a warehouse, on a hot truck, and on a pharmacy shelf for 2 years without growing mold.
Oh, right. Shelf life.
Exactly. To achieve that shelf life, they have to add preservatives. They add dyes for visual appeal and harsh fragrances for that floral scent we talked about.
And those preservatives are the issue.
Huge issue. When you insert those synthetic preservatives into the delicate internal mucosal ecosystem, they don't just sit there peacefully. They act as chemical weapons against your natural flora.
Because a preservative's entire job is to stop bacterial growth.
Exactly. It doesn't know the difference between the harmful mold in a warehouse and the essential lactobacillus inside your body.
So you're buying a product to feel cleaner, but by introducing those preservatives, you're actively destroying the very thing that is actually keeping you clean.
It's so frustrating. And because these products obliterate the lactobacillus, their regular use triggers this dangerous chain reaction.
Yeah, the research maps this out as a 4-step cascade of microbiome collapse, and it happens frightfully fast.
It really does.
Let's walk through the logic of this cascade. The first domino falls when you use the internal cleanser, washing away or killing off those good lactobacillus bacteria.
Right. And once that lactobacillus population crashes, the second phase begins almost instantly.
Because the bouncers are gone.
Exactly. Without those bacteria feeding and producing lactic acid, the lactic acid levels just plummet. Consequently, the pH level shoots up,
So the environment goes from a hostile, acidic 4.0 to a far more neutral, welcoming 6.0 or even higher.
which means the neighborhood is suddenly very hospitable.
All right, the bouncers are dead, the VIP list is shredded, the front door is wide open. So who moves into the club now?
That leads right into the third phase, opportunistic invasion.
Oh, that sounds ominous.
It is. With the acidic shield gone, harmful pathogens that were previously just kept in check suddenly have all this room to thrive. For instance, Candida, the fungus responsible for yeast infections.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it flourishes in a less acidic environment. So, seemingly overnight, you develop a severe yeast infection.
Or even more commonly, according to the sources, harmful bacteria like Gardnerella multiply wildly and take over the ecosystem.
Right, which causes bacterial vaginosis or BV.
And the statistics from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services paint just a stark picture of how common this is.
They really do. Women who engage in the permanent, regular use of internal cleansers or douches, even just once a week, are up to 5 times more likely to develop bacterial vaginosis than those who just leave their natural microbiome alone.
5 times more likely. That is insane. And the tragic irony of all this, which brings us to the final phase of the cascade, is that these products strip the protective mucosal layer and end up causing the exact symptoms they claim to cure.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You use them to stop a mild, perfectly natural odor, and instead you give yourself an infection that causes a strong, fishy odor, abnormal discharge, and intense itching.
Right.
It reminds me of someone pouring a massive jug of industrial weed killer on their front lawn just to get rid of one tiny perceived weed.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
You end up killing all the healthy grass, and because the grass is gone, the soil is totally exposed, which just allows a massive field of toxic, invasive weeds to take over the entire yard.
That analogy captures the biological reality perfectly.
Right.
You've completely salted the earth of your own microbiome.
Right.
And once those invasive weeds take root, simply stopping the weed killer isn't always enough to bring the healthy grass back.
Yeah.
At that point, it requires medical intervention.
Which pivots our conversation to these severe long-term risks here. Because we aren't just talking about a temporary itch or a bad smell for a few days.
No, not at all.
The sources make it very clear that the permanent use of these internal deodorants and douches leads to life-altering health crises.
Because this disruption doesn't just stay localized.
Right. The vagina is directly connected to the cervix, which acts as this gateway to the upper reproductive system, the uterus, the fallopian tubes, the ovaries.
Exactly. When you introduce liquid forcefully, or when you permanently alter the pH so severely that infections just run rampant, you risk pushing those pathogens upward.
Into areas that are supposed to be completely sterile.
Right. And the clinical term for that upward invasion is pelvic inflammatory disease, or PID.
And PID is no joke.
It is a severe systemic infection of the upper reproductive organs. The clinical data indicates that regular douching and internal cleansing is linked to a 73% higher risk of developing PID.
73%. We need to really unpack how devastating PID actually is because, it's not just a simple infection you take a quick antibiotic for and just forget about.
Far from it. I mean, PID causes intense chronic pelvic pain, sure, but the invisible damage is much worse. The profound inflammation creates severe scar tissue inside the fallopian tubes.
And the fallopian tubes are already incredibly narrow, right? They're like these tiny, delicate hallways meant to transport a microscopic egg.
Exactly. So when you line those tiny hallways with thick, fibrous scar tissue, you create physical roadblocks.
Wow.
Yeah. And that scarring can lead to permanent, long-term infertility because the egg simply cannot travel to the uterus. Furthermore, it significantly raises the risk of an ectopic pregnancy.
By how much?
By as much as 76%, according to the medical literature.
That is terrifying. For those who might not know the mechanics of an ectopic pregnancy, it happens when a fertilized egg tries to make its way down the fallopian tube, right?
Yes.
It hits that roadblock of scar tissue caused by the PID, gets trapped, and ends up implanting in the tube itself instead of the uterus.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Right, because the tube cannot expand like a uterus can. So as the embryo grows, the tube eventually ruptures, causing massive internal bleeding. It is a terrifying, life-threatening medical emergency.
It's one of the most critical emergencies in gynecology. But the long-term risks documented in our sources They don't even stop at PID and ectopic pregnancies.
There's more.
Yeah, the literature also notes increased complications during pregnancy for those who regularly use internal cleansers, including a higher risk of preterm birth.
Good Lord.
And there is also a drastically increased susceptibility to sexually transmitted infections, including HIV, chlamydia, and gonorrhea.
Because you've washed away the defense system.
Exactly. When you wash away the lactobacillus and the acidic mucosal lining, you're washing away the primary physical and chemical barrier that stops viruses and bacteria from entering the bloodstream.
The sources even point to associations with certain types of cancer, right? Like cervical and ovarian cancer for those who use these invasive products on a weekly, permanent basis.
It's just a cascade of terrible outcomes.
But I want to pose a methodological question here because I really want to make sure we are reading the science correctly for everyone listening.
Sure.
Are researchers absolutely certain that the sheer act of using these products causes these severe diseases? Or is it possible we're looking at a chicken or egg scenario?
What do you mean?
Like, for instance, maybe women who already have early symptoms of these issues, like an unusual odor from a developing silent infection, maybe they are just more likely to go to the pharmacy and buy these products to treat themselves.
That is a highly critical question. And it's actually a debate that researchers at the Office on Women's Health actively study.
Oh, really?
Yes. The data does show that women with early symptoms often attempt to self-treat with over-the-counter products.
Okay, so they already had the infection.
Right. However, regardless of which came first, the initial infection or the product, the mechanical action of using the internal product objectively worsens the condition.
Oh, I see. Because if you already have a mild, localized infection near the entrance, shooting an acidified gel or a liquid douche up into the canal acts like, well, a fire hose.
Exactly. It physically blasts those bacteria through the cervix and further up into the reproductive tract.
So even if the product didn't spontaneously generate the initial bacteria, the action of the liquid or the plunger drives the infection deeper.
That is the mechanical reality. It takes a highly treatable localized issue and transforms it into full-blown pelvic inflammatory disease.
Wow.
The consensus is absolutely clear on this. The permanent use of these internal products does profound compounding harm, no matter what prompted the user to buy them in the first place.
Right. So given these severe long-term risks and the fact that we've essentially dismantled this entire $41 billion marketing premise, how should you actually manage hygiene day to day?
Right, because people still want to feel clean.
Exactly. We still live in a world where we sweat, we work out, What is the actual OBGYN approved method?
It really all comes down to the golden rule of vaginal health. Absolutely nothing goes inside unless it is specifically prescribed by a medical doctor.
No exceptions.
Zero exceptions for over-the-counter cosmetics, no gels, no douches, no heavily perfumed suppositories.
Regardless of how many pH-balanced stickers they slap on the box.
Ignore the stickers. Now, if a doctor prescribes an FDA-approved medical-grade treatment like, say, a specific boric acid suppository for a clinically diagnosed issue, that is entirely different. But cosmetic internal cleansers, never.
Okay, so the inside manages itself. The bouncers handle the VIP room. What are the vulva? How do we handle the outside?
For the external skin, simplicity is key. All that is actually required is warm water.
Just water.
Just warm water. But if you feel you must use a cleanser, you want to use a very mild, unscented soap or a simple emollient.
And an emollient, just to clarify for everyone, is a substance that soothes and softens the skin without using those harsh stripping detergents found in traditional body washes.
Yes, exactly. It cleanses without tearing down the skin's natural moisture barrier. You want to apply it only to the external skin, and you never, ever scrub aggressively.
What if someone is dealing with post-workout sweat and really wants to use a deodorant? Because the sources did mention some safe alternatives as long as they are strictly for external use.
Yeah, if you're going to use an external deodorant, brands like Lume or Sweet Spot Labs were highlighted in the materials. You must ensure they're strictly formulated for external skin only.
Right.
They need to be hypoallergenic, free of harsh chemicals, and clearly labeled for outside use.
Because they're essentially designed to target the apocrine sweat glands, right?
Exactly. Those are the glands in the external skin folds of the groin that produce sweat.
And when bacteria on the surface of your skin break down that sweat, it creates body odor, which is a completely different biological process than the internal mucosal ecosystem.
A completely different system.
Yeah.
You can neutralize the sweat-eating bacteria on your external skin folds without ever crossing the threshold and disrupting the internal flora.
I think it's vital to wrap up this hygiene section by normalizing something the marketing industry just desperately wants you to hate.
Which is,
That natural odor is healthy.
oh, absolutely.
A mild, tangy, or slightly musky scent is literally the smell of a healthy, acidic pH doing its job. It is the scent of lactic acid.
It means your bouncers are working.
Right, the club is secure.
The medical community emphasizes that constantly. It is only when an odor becomes remarkably strong, foul, or fishy that it serves as a warning sign.
And those distinct changes are indicators of a bacterial or fungal infection that requires a doctor's diagnosis, not a drugstore deodorant.
Exactly. Using an internal wash permanently to fix a persistent fishy odor is, well, it's a terrible idea.
It's essentially throwing a heavy blanket over a blaring fire alarm instead of actually calling the fire department to put out the fire.
That's spot on. And in the process, the blanket catches fire too. You're masking a vital symptom while simultaneously throwing gasoline on the underlying problem.
This deep dive has completely recontextualized how we should view the feminine hygiene aisle. So, to summarize our findings for you, the vagina is a self-cleaning marvel heavily guarded by lactobacillus.
Engaging in the permanent, regular use of internal intimate deodorants, gels, and douches is a scientifically proven way to obliterate that natural defense system.
And once that system falls, you are exposed to everything from rapid onset bacterial vaginosis to severe life-altering complications like pelvic inflammatory disease, internal scarring, and ectopic pregnancies.
So the best thing you can do for your long-term health and your wallet is just to leave the inside alone.
But before we sign off, I want to leave you with a fascinating concept drawn from the margins of our sources today.
Oh, this part is really interesting.
It is. We know from the research that factors like your diet, hormonal changes, and importantly, your stress levels can physically alter your vaginal microbiome.
Right, because high stress increases cortisol.
Exactly. Cortisol can suppress your immune system and actually alter your body's natural glycogen levels. And glycogen is the very sugar that lactobacillus feeds on.
It's all connected.
So consider this. If society's unrealistic $41 billion marketing machine is making you stress out over how you naturally smell, could the psychological stress of worrying about your hygiene actually be raising your cortisol levels, starving your protective bacteria, and doing more harm than simply doing nothing at all?
It's such a profound cyclical thought. The anxiety manufactured by the industry might actually be a physiological contributing factor to the very dysbiosis they claim their products will cure.
It really makes you think twice about who benefits from making us worry about our own biology. So the next time you see an ad promising to make you smell like a botanical garden down there, just remember, you don't need to be a flower garden.
No, you don't.
You just need to let the bouncers do their job.